You're going to learn how to destroy an enemy bot lane with pure wave control fundamentals. Knowing how to trade is important, but understanding how to turn that single good trade into an insurmountable advantage matters even more. My name's Hector, and if you know me, you'll know just how many videos I've made at SkillCap about dealing with bad teammates as a bot laner in low elo. I'm always breaking down what to do if my support trolls my wave state, what if they engage at a bad time, and so forth. But in this video, I'm instead going to focus on a high elo game where my partner actually played well. And that's because loser's queue doesn't last forever, and learning what to do when your teammate isn't trolling is just as important. And although this is an ADC focused guide, because my support ended up playing well, I'm also going to be breaking down support concepts for any support who clicked the video. Anyway, let's just get into it. Heading right into the game, we see an invade, so I put down a ward at Raptors. As many of you likely already know, junglers will always path through Raptors, and this ward always gives you the best information. Even if I don't see Lee on Raptors, I'll know where he's at for like the first 5 minutes of the game by process of elimination. Basically, I can play very aggressively with zero risk. Immediately, the enemy Kai'Sa made a small mistake. If you're coming back to lane from an invade, you need to hug the lane wall so you don't get cheesed like this. Luckily, she didn't lose a lot of health, but that can be game losing. Now at level 1, when posturing like this for early priority, you should always ask yourself who is better in and out of the wave. Spells like Corki or Jin's Q are better inside the wave because they either don't get blocked or they get stronger if you hit minions with them, whereas champions like Ashe with her W or Ezreal with Q get blocked by minions, right? So these champions are stronger before the minions arrive. In this case, Kai'Sa does more damage outside the wave with her isolated Q. Meanwhile, I can use my own spell through the wave. So you can see, I simply hold space and don't try to fight her before minions arrive. When the wave gets here, I auto to fight for priority and I land a nice Q through the wave on Kai'Sa. And this is super important. You need to stop auto attacking now. With that Q, I've already won priority. You only keep pushing if your opponent hits the wave. This is called matching auto attacks. So if Kai'Sa keeps hitting minions, I will match her autos on the wave. Otherwise, I'm not going to hit it anymore. That goes for the support players watching as well. Don't autopilot trying to proc your relic shield for no reason and ruin the wave state. And this is important to do because it keeps the wave in the middle of the lane for longer, letting you zone your opponents more easily. And what comes next is the game-winning moment. After my initial Q, I walk forward pretending I'm going to use my passive to double shot Kai'Sa, and I walk back just in time to bait and avoid her Q so all of the missiles go on the wave. That might not seem like a big deal, but if you can bait your opponent to hit the wave with their spell like this, it can turn into a huge advantage with good follow-up. Kai'Sa had to just sit back and do nothing. By getting baited to use her Q, the wave is now stuck in the middle of the lane for even longer, so she's just going to suffer even more. And Leona is about to make a very common engaged support mistake. I know it's frustrating to just sit there and do nothing and feel like you're going to get flamed, but even if your ADC is getting outplayed and they're eating a ton of free poke, you absolutely cannot engage at level 1. Leona felt like she needed to do something, but this just always makes the lane even worse. Clearly, we've already developed a big lead. From here, Lulu and I just need to snowball properly. Now, if you are playing a duo that can poke under tower really well, like Caitlyn Lux or Thresh Ezreal, you fast push and crash this wave and harass them under tower. But if you're playing medium range champions like Draven, Misfortune, Nami, or Lucian in this case, you instead want to push slowly here, so you can get a crash right outside the enemy tower. This is the perfect type of crash with our champions because the wave is still outside the tower enough to where we can threaten harass, but the tower is also messing up Kai'Sa's CS too, so she's basically missing every single last hit here. It's pretty brutal. Then on the next wave, because it's pushing so fast and is so close to the enemy tower, we're just gonna push this in and play on the next set of minions. Then as the next wave arrives, I harass Leona a little bit, and this is a slight detail you should pay attention to. I make sure to do a couple of stutter steps here in front of the enemy wave. The goal is firstly to delay the minions a little bit so that the crash between both waves is a little closer to their side. This way, the even minion rule makes it likely it bounces back our side of the lane. But also, my main goal was to group up the enemy minions a little bit more so that when they meet my incoming wave, they're all in sync to focus down the first melee they walk into. And now that I've got a little bit of a freeze going, I'm going to teach you a concept that I don't know if there's a term for it, so I'm going to call it a two-wave conversion. Let's say you've got a freeze going kind of like this, but you want to make a proactive play on the map soon. What you should do is take that initial wave and turn it into a slow push. So you can see me hitting the wave just enough to where my wave is now slightly bigger. This is a two-way two-wave process though, and a super important detail is that you want to kill the last enemy minion on the first wave right as the next enemy wave is arriving. This timing is critical because you don't want your own wave moving forward too much, keeping it closer to your side of the lane, which makes the minions easier for you to control. Then once that second wave arrives, you fast push it as quickly as possible and crash normally. The goal is pretty straightforward. You're turning a freeze into a slow push with around 8 to 10 minions so you can do something proactive on the map. It won't always look like that, every game is different as you'll soon see, but that's the basic premise you want to follow. This wave conversion is great if you had a freeze going and you want to set up a recall, or your jungler is pathing towards bot lane and they've been pinging dragons so you need to do it in 30 seconds or so, or in this case the enemy bot lane is low so there's a potential dive opportunity. Now to be fair, in this specific game I didn't have a true freeze going as this wave was going to slow push anyway, but the idea of the two wave conversion is still there. As you can see, I'm trying to make sure this final enemy minion dies just as the next wave is arriving so my own wave doesn't move up and I'm still in control over the wave. And because my Graves isn't here yet, I'm adapting and not fast pushing this wave immediately. Instead, I'm slow pushing it, giving him time to arrive for the dive. And of course, I'm also making sure to punish the Kai'Sa a little bit as she goes for the cannon last hit, which will make the dive a little bit easier. Then once Graves is finally here, we fast push to crash and then we look to dive. I dash forward and I do flash thinking I got turret aggro, which is a bit of a whoopsie, but the job ultimately gets done. Kai'Sa went down immediately and then the Leona soon afterwards. Before we continue, I know that this is not what you're going to experience in lower elo lobbies. I was managing the wave pretty precisely and my Lulu, not once did she mess up my wave plans. And my Graves was actually looking at his minimap and came for a dive at the right time. Your games don't have to go this perfectly for you to succeed though. If you manage to do just a fourth of what I did with a worse partner, you're still going to stomp players in your elo because they're making even worse mistakes than the players I went up against. And I know that because there is not a single high elo player in the world who's played as many low elo games as I have. I have hundreds of games with Sonas or Jannas standing 20 yards behind me the whole laning phase doing absolutely nothing. And I've also experienced the ADCs who mindlessly shove every single wave so I can never engage as Leona. Despite how frustrating your games are, there are ways to carry consistently without needing to be a smurf with insane mechanics. And to prove it, this year I took a player who had never played a single game of rank and I took them from bronze to diamond as an ADC in less than 3 months. After years of studying specifically low elo, I know what you actually need to do to win games. It's all about knowing how to make a very simple but consistent game plan for lane as you're loading into the game, and then understanding how macro completely changes in low elo for ADCs, because trying to macro like a high elo player is just going to get you nowhere. If you explore my bronze to diamond ADC course, you will get a step-by-step program for how to climb that even a dad who gets to only play 5 games a week could follow. And the best part is, if you end up thinking that my advice is trash and it doesn't work for you for whatever reason after you try it, it's whatever. You just get your money back, no questions asked. There is zero risk to signing up. So if you're interested in how to easily climb as an ADC in low elo, use the discount link below to sign up to Skillcap. Trust me, you won't regret it. Alright, back to the lane. We've got to snowball even harder now. It's one thing to get some kills early on, but I want to put this Kai'Sa completely in the dirt, so the follow-up here is really important. After we dove them, I'm going to base, but there's an important detail that's about to happen now. Because Riot added death home guards to the game and low death timers early on, Kai'Sa is going to get back to the lane first, and she's going to get one shove into my tower while I'm still shopping in base. Supports, you should listen up because my Lulu just won this game and got 20 LP with one easy decision. Kai'Sa being able to crash one wave technically means that both supports should roam right now. The wave is going to bounce back slowly towards her because she crashed it. Since it's bouncing into Kai'Sa, this means that Leona can roam because Kai'Sa can just chill and play safe while the wave comes into her. Likewise, because the wave is going to be so close to my own tower and I've got a slow push going, I'm going to be perfectly safe on my own even if Leona doesn't roam and stayed in lane, but she's not going to do that because I'm going to be safe, so she is definitely roaming. Basically, both ADCs are totally safe on their own for a while, so Leona's going to roam and my Lulu should match it. Technically, both supports can roam pretty freely until I crash the wave and it starts bouncing back into me, and that's when we're probably going to start fighting again. And my Lulu is about to hard punish the enemy duo by understanding this. As a support, you should always try to base before your ADC if they don't need you to finish crashing the wave, like in this situation. situation. For supports, your tempo matters so much more than for your ADC because you actually get to impact the map by roaming around, and by recalling faster, you'll have more time to do that. But in this situation, Lulu knew that Leona was going to roam like we discussed, so she used her W movement speed to rush back to lane as quickly as possible to hold the wave Kai'Sa was crashing. And because Leona is guaranteed to not be bot lane, Kai'Sa is completely boned. Unless Leona somehow gets 4 kills up here, this is about to become an insurmountable lead. With this one simple map read, Lulu denied not 1, not 2, but 3 waves in total before Leona got back to lane. And this early into the match, that is absolutely brutal. I will say I make a slightly greedy play. As my Graves was pathing bot side, I could have done another 2-wave conversion. This way, as he finishes Wolves and Gromp, I'd start building a slow push and crashing into Kai'Sa's tower. Then, as Graves finishes his camp, this would allow us to take Dragon 100% for free, invade Lee Sin's jungle, or even just base, or maybe even re-dive them. But I'm a very selfish type of player, so I just kept freezing because I wanted to annoy the enemy Kai'Sa as much as possible, rather than playing the map correctly. And unfortunately for her, as Leona comes back to lane and gives her a bit of confidence to walk up, she walks into the river at the worst possible moment and is immediately ganked after being denied for 2 minutes. Honestly, I feel kinda bad. And I want to address the obvious because for this part of the lane, none of that was me playing particularly well, and it was mostly my team playing properly. I just held a freeze and then got handed a massive lead by my Graves coming down. But there's an important point I want to make for both ADCs and supports, because this is a sequence that I know for a fact would have never happened in low elo, and that's because the second that we saw Leona top, here's what probably would have happened. Your Graves would have likely started to spam ping you to push because he's being support gapped and he is annoyed that you're not doing anything. So as the ADC, you might feel pressured to break your own freeze and push the wave. And even if you know better, I know for certain your support will bust out their support item and start executing minions, forcing you to push because they don't want to be flamed. Then you guys push into the tower, maybe harass Kai'Sa a little bit, but you can't really dive because you're playing with a Lulu, so you maybe get a plate or 2, which gives 60 gold each, and then Kai'Sa's just catching minions. She's a bit sad of course, but she's happy she's at least getting experience. I know that it can feel kind of awkward to feel like you're not doing anything when the enemy support is roaming and killing your teammates, but as you can see, my Lulu was perfectly content just vibing between me and mid so I could hold the freeze. And that's a general rule I urge you to follow. Unless you can for sure dive the enemy ADC on their own, you will get a bigger lead by freezing and denying waves rather than by pushing and getting 1 or 2 turret plates. I tend to follow this rule until around level 6 because then it doesn't really matter what type of partner you have. With 2 ultimates, you can execute a dive pretty easily regardless of your champions. Anyway, after these kills, it's fair to say that the lane is pretty much over, but stick around if you want to revel in Kai'Sa's misery a little bit longer. At 640, I go back to the wave I had here and last hit as slowly as possible, keeping it on my side of the lane, continuing to deny Kai'Sa. She doesn't get to see the wave until 8 minutes when it's finally starting to push back into her. Then as the cannon gets low, she desperately tries to get it, giving me a perfect all-in timer with my culling, nearly killing her. But with Leona backing her up, she thinks that just maybe she can soak a little bit of experience. Nope, my Graves comes to ult her over the wall and it's back to the base for you, buddy. And that definitely wraps up this laning phase. I do not blame her for inting after that. Sometimes it's better to just go next. And this catastrophe all stemmed from this single good trade early on, where I dealt damage, baited her to queue my minions. From there, it was just pure wave control to completely ruin her mental. Remember, if you want to learn from someone who actually understands low elo and all of the frustrations that come with it, then sign up using the discount link below. Our ADC courses at Skillcapped are the only ones on the internet that actually understand what struggles you're going through and how to fix them to climb easily. Anyway, see you next time.